my name's Pete, I'm from Tritonic, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to make a fretless guitar. So this is the fretless guitar I've made previously. It's an old Telecaster copy that I took the frets out, added some wood filler, put some polyurethane spray on it, sanded it down, restrung it, and it turned out pretty successful. This is the guitar we're going to be converting. Now, this was an experiment I made where I attempt to make a microtonal guitar by adding extra frets. Turns out that adding frets is a lot harder than taking them away, and as a very bad and impatient worker, I did this very poorly. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the neck off, put a new neck on it, and it's that neck that we're going to focus on taking the frets out. So this is the neck we're going to be converting today. It's from an old Strat copy, cost me about £70. Now, it's slightly longer than the Mustang neck, so I assume that's probably going to come back and bite me a little bit later on when we try and make it actually functional. Hi, this is me from the future. This absolutely does come back to bite me on the arse, so I fully recommend that you use the exact same neck for the model of guitar that you're using and don't try and mix and match, because that created a whole world of problems later on. But so far what we're going to do, we're going to rip up the frets is the first thing we're going to do, and then fill it in. These are the fret pliers that I'm going to be using. Got these from Amazon, fortunately. Try and find them somewhere else, don't give Jeff Bezos any more money. This is the tool that you'll need. It's pretty easy. I'll show you how it's done. Campground, deep river. And voila, first stage is done. Took a bit of time with some of the frets. They were pretty stuck in there pretty hard, but if you take your time, work them out, they come out pretty easily. As you do that, sometimes the fretboard will kind of splinter up and come up away from that and make sort of scratches, but we're going to fill everything up with wood filler. So not to worry about that, and actually I quite like the effect of having some slightly gnarly frets that become part of that. So next stage, I'm going to fill in the frets. I'm going to be using just basic Ronsil wood filler, and I'm going to be filling in the frets now. Okay, I think that was the first instance of me absolutely having no idea what I'm doing. I had a lot of trouble with that because I think it's been quite hot here. The wood glue kind of split and I hadn't like mushed it up into a nice little paste. So it came out pretty liquidy rather than fillery. And then so took a bit of trouble getting into it. And in the end I gave up using a bit of paper and just used my fingers. Probably the wrong thing to do, but it's currently looking all right. All the bits are filled in. Going to leave this to dry for a couple of hours, and then I'm going to sand it and stain it. I'm debating whether to maybe have another go, just putting one more coat of filler in just to sort of fill in any spots that I've missed or uneven. But at the end of the day, this is going to be sanded down and stained, so it doesn't really matter if there's too many mistakes at the moment. So I'm going to stain the fretboard now. I'm going to use just a simple wood stain that I've got from the internet. I'm going to do several coats of that because I'm looking for quite a dark finish. So I did a few coats of the wood stain. Now I'm going to mask it up and get it ready for the polyurethane coat. Now that that's all masked up, I'm going to use polyurethane and I'm going to spray several coats of that, let it dry, several coats more, in the hope that we're going to have a nice thick finish that can be sanded down nice and smooth for the fretboard. this is the neck at the moment. It's had several coats of polyurethane and it's starting to feel like we're on our way to getting this done. So we're going to move on to the sanding next. I have myself a radial block and a variety of different grit sandpaper. So I'm going to start off with 120 grit sandpaper and move my way up and up and up almost to 1000 or 2000 grit sandpaper so we get as smooth a finish as possible. So I'm going to get on with a lot of sanding.
170 and I felt so lost, because every day it's data comparing love.
So whilst I was sanding, I ended up getting a little bit too vigorous and taking it quite further back than I would have planned. This hadn't normally been the case. Maybe the coats that I'd done were too thin of the polyurethane, but it meant that I've ended up doing a second coat of the polyurethane, and I hopefully will be a little bit more conscientious when I do my sanding for the second time. As you can see, we're on the home stretch. I've attached the neck. Now, as Future Me predicted, this came with quite a few issues. The neck did not fit particularly snugly into the body, so I had to chop off the bottom part of the neck to make it slide in more evenly, because the strings were far too close to the neck and effectively wouldn't play. The action was too low. I had to raise the bridge quite significantly so that the action wasn't too low, so that it wouldn't fret too low down on the neck. That required some quite inventive and probably impractical DIY solutions involving a cut-up credit card, hammers and other stuff. So like Future Me predicted, unless you're a trained luthier and you know what you're doing with guitars, unlike me, I thoroughly recommend you use the same neck and body, or use an old guitar that you know works. So that would be my full advice to you. Now that I've got it in some kind of vague working order, I'm going to restring all the rest of the strings and hopefully we'll get to see what it sounds like. The guitar is now fully strung and we're ready to play it. Before we do that, I should say that the inspiration for this video was taken from Nin Explains, who mainly explains rules about football now, but did do a fretless conversion that was the inspiration and the method which I followed, so he deserves all credit for figuring that out. One question that you might be thinking of is, why do this? Why make a fretless guitar? Because they are quite difficult to play, but for me it's a question of harmonic inventiveness. When you maybe buy a new guitar, suddenly you're far more excited to play it, you're far more interested in what you can do with this new guitar, and then suddenly having to approach guitar from an entirely different way really sort of opens up that level of inspiration that perhaps you might not have been able to tap into another way. And also it sounds kind of fun, and it is quite a niche, specialist, interesting and sort of rare item to turn up with a fretless guitar. If you've enjoyed any of the music that's been in this video, then please do check out Tritonic. We've got various albums, and hopefully the next one will feature a variety of fretless guitars. I play in drop C because I'm metal, but I also do that mainly because I find that easier to play with the fretless. I think it's something that loosens the strings slightly, you can move around the fretboard a little bit more, but you do you. So without any amplification, this is what the sound that we have so far. So it took me a bit of time just sort of tinkering with the action, a few things just to get it to a place that I liked and something that's pretty playable. Right, how about we put a leash on this puppy? some slightly pointless noodling, but hopefully it gave you a flavour of what the guitar is capable of, and maybe in your hands, hopefully you're a much better guitarist than me, you can create something truly incredible. Hopefully this video has been a bit of fun, hopefully you might have learned something, and hopefully you've been inspired to make your own. Let me know. Cheers.